Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Daily for You, a place where practicing English feels calm, simple, and human. I'm Emma, and I'm really happy you're here with us today.
And I'm Thomas. Thanks for spending this time with us.
Over the last few episodes, we've talked about moments that feel difficult for many English learners. Moments when English suddenly feels heavy. Moments when your mind freezes. Moments when words disappear under pressure.
And if you've been listening along, you might be thinking something like, okay, I understand why this happens, but how do I actually start speaking?
Yes. That question comes up a lot. Not in a loud way, but in a quiet, very personal way. Especially for adults who already know some English. People who can read emails, understand meetings, follow movies or podcasts.
But still feel stuck when it's time to speak.
Exactly. And today, we want to talk about something very specific. Not grammar. Not vocabulary lists. But something simpler. How speaking English often becomes easier when you stop thinking so much about speaking.
That sounds a little strange at first, because most learners are told to think more.
And this is where today's episode gently shifts. Because up to now, we've talked a lot about why speaking feels hard. Why pressure builds. Why your mind freezes. But today, we want to talk about the other side of this experience. The moments when speaking actually starts to feel easier.
Not because your English suddenly improves, mejor de no, and not because you try harder.
But because you stop asking your mind to do too much at once. This episode is about what happens when you speak without overthinking.
When you respond before judging. When you allow simple words to come out naturally.
If you've ever noticed that you speak better when you're relaxed, or when you're not trying to be perfect, you're already closer to this than you think.
So let's slow this down together and explore how speaking can begin quietly. One small sentence at a time.
Up to now, we've talked about pressure. We've talked about freezing. We've talked about moments when English feels heavier than it should. And many learners start to think the problem is confidence.
Yes, people often say, if I had more confidence, I could speak. Or, if I wasn't so nervous, it would be easier.
That makes sense, because when something feels hard, we naturally look for something we're missing. Confidence feels like the missing piece.
But here's something interesting. When we listen to learners who can speak sometimes, but freeze other times, confidence isn't always the real issue.
Exactly. Many learners already have confidence in some situations. They can speak with close friends, or when they're relaxed, or when no one is really listening closely.
But the moment their mind starts working too hard, that confidence disappears.
And that tells us something important. Speaking doesn't stop because English disappears. It stops because the mind gets too busy.
Busy checking. Busy correcting. Busy preparing the best answer.
Let's talk about what actually happens inside the mind in those moments. Not in a scientific way, just in a very human way.
Imagine your mind as a small room. When you're relaxed, there's space. Words can move, ideas can come and go.
But when you start thinking too much, that room fills up very quickly. Thoughts stack on top of each other. Is this correct? Is this polite enough? What will they think?
And suddenly, there's no space left for a simple response. Not because you don't know what to say, but because there's no room to say it.
That's why many learners say, I know the answer, but I can't say it. The knowledge is there. The access is blocked.
Yes, it's like standing in front of a door you've opened many times before, but now you're thinking so hard about how to open it that your hand freezes.
That's a very good way to put it. And this is where many learners unknowingly make things harder for themselves.
They try to fix the problem by adding more thinking, more rules, more self-correction.
But adding more thinking to an already busy mind doesn't create space. It creates noise.
And noise is the enemy of natural speech.
Natural speech happens when the mind feels safe enough to respond. Not perfect, not impressive, just safe.
This is why speaking often feels easier in low-pressure moments, like chatting with someone you trust, or making a small comment without expecting a response.
Yes, in those moments, you're not trying to perform. You're just reacting.
And reacting uses a different part of your mind, a quieter part.
That's the part we want to reconnect with. Not by forcing it, not by training harder, but by letting thinking step back a little.
And that doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean accuracy doesn't matter.
It just means accuracy doesn't lead the conversation. Connection does.
Exactly. When connection comes first, your English often follows more naturally.
Many learners are surprised when they notice this. They say things like, I didn't plan that sentence, or I didn't even think, it just came out.
And those moments are important because they show you that speaking is already inside you.
It's not something you need to build from zero. It's something you need to allow.
Allow by slowing down the mind. Allow by accepting short answers. Allow by not finishing every sentence perfectly.
In the next part of this episode, we'll stay with this idea even more. We'll look at how small, imperfect responses are often the doorway to real speaking.
And how starting small can feel surprisingly relieving.
Let's keep going. As we come to the end of this episode, let's pause for a moment and look at what we've been talking about together. Not in a way that tries to change anything right away, just in a way that notices.
Because noticing is often the first real shift. Not effort, not pressure.
Many English learners spend years thinking the problem is ability, or intelligence, or confidence. But what we've been exploring today is something quieter. That speaking often becomes difficult not because you don't know English, but because your mind is trying too hard to protect you from making a mistake.
Yes, and when you see it that way, something changes. The freezing moment stops feeling like failure. It starts feeling like information.
Information about pressure, about expectations, about how much you're asking yourself to do in a single moment. And when you see it as information, you don't need to fight it. You don't need to judge it.
You can simply make space around it.
This is why we keep returning to the idea of simplicity. Short answers, small reactions, one sentence at a time.
Not because they are training exercises, but because they lower the noise in the mind.
When the noise lowers, something very natural happens. Your English starts moving again.
Sometimes slowly, sometimes imperfectly, but it moves.
And that movement matters more than sounding perfect. You don't need to sound confident to begin speaking. You only need enough comfort to respond.
Comfort with silence. Comfort with pauses. Comfort with not finishing a thought perfectly.
Many fluent speakers speak this way too. They pause. They restart. They adjust mid-sentence.
It's part of real communication, not a sign of weakness.
So if you take one feeling from today's episode, let it be this. Speaking doesn't begin when you stop being nervous. It begins when you stop fighting the nervousness.
When you allow your mind to be a little quieter, a little less busy.
And if today you don't speak more than usual, that's okay. If today you only notice when your mind starts racing, that's already something.
Because awareness always comes before change.
And change, when it comes, often feels lighter than we expect. If this episode felt familiar, you're not alone. And if it felt relieving, that's not an accident.
We'll continue exploring these small human moments of English together, one episode at a time.
No pressure to perform. No pressure to impress. Just space to speak when you're ready.
Thanks for spending this time with us today.
And we'll see you in the next episode.